Welcome to Deadly Dames, and I've not done a video in a while, which is very evident on the channel, but I wanted to do a top 10 movies of 2019 video. 2019 for me was a strange year because there wasn't particularly an abundance of fantastic movies, but there were some extreme standout films. So I'm going to do my top 10, then a couple of honourable mentions and dishonourable mentions. So number 10 on my list is a Netflix film. Now last year I think I had quite a lot of Netflix films on the list, but this year we have one. Netflix did produce and have a lot of fantastic TV shows this year, but for me, movie wise, there just wasn't as much released. So I'll just try to adjust the video. So what we have first is Isn't It Romantic? So not a movie that I would normally choose to watch, although I do watch just about anything. Claire will back me up on that one. So Isn't Romantic is basically a film about a girl that's given up on love and doesn't like rom-coms, doesn't like anything romantic, and then one day she is mugged and bashes her head and she wakes up in her very own rom-com. She's aware, oh, I'm not supposed to be here, something crazy's going on. Obviously everybody else in that rom-com that's their life, so they don't see what she sees. She can't swear, certain things won't happen because it's a PG movie, and obviously it's driving her mad, which makes you as the audience member find it very funny. I've watched Isn't It Romantic a couple of times, and I probably will watch it a couple of times more. It won't be everybody's cup of tea, but for me, I laughed from beginning to end, and I just overly enjoyed it. Number 9 is Doctor Sleep. Now, I've read the book of Doctor Sleep, which follows on from Stephen King's idea of The Shining. Now, The Shining that Stephen King wrote is actually very different from the one that Stanley Kubrick made into a movie. Now, because the majority of the people out there have seen the movie rather than reading the book, it was obviously going to be different from the book itself. However, I felt like they did a really good job of adapting what was in that novel to screen, and that's what I really enjoyed about it. Only after seeing the movie did I realise how difficult it was to adapt that book to screen, because The Shining takes place in one place, which is Overlook Hotel, whereas Doctor Sleep takes place over a massive amount of different places. I think it's very difficult to put that to film because the audience starts to lose time. I don't know another way to describe it. They start to lose focus on the storyline because they're here, there, and everywhere. So I don't think it did that well because of that, because the movie had to go in loads of different directions in different areas, and it became quite difficult to follow what was going on. But overall, I think, and maybe I enjoyed it more because I'd read the book, but overall I really thought they did a fantastic job with it. I also really liked that the ending to Doctor Sleep corrected the ending to The Shining from the book. But I don't want to give too much away. If I do go into a rant and start to give away a bit of a story, I will warn you to stop watching. Number 8 was Happy Death Day to You. I actually love the title to this, but titles can be deceiving. So like Piranhas 3DD, for example, fantastic title, not such a good movie. So I did go into this movie not hoping for too much. I really liked that they were able to link from the first film to this one, basically to prove, like, to justify there being a sequel. A lot of movies, when they do well, they just give them a sequel, but really it's got nothing else to do with the first film. But I loved how they connected both films together, and technically you could double bill that as one big long movie without ever seeing the difference between two films. It didn't really do anything new from the first film, but I enjoyed it, and enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed the first film. Number 7 for me was Child's Play. So yes, it's a remake, and yes, a lot of people didn't like it. However, I love the original Child's Play. I love the voodoo idea. But I think in today's age, with the way technology is, the remake of Child's Play, which, to be honest with you, other than the title, Chucky, and the idea of a mother and son, the movies aren't anything alike. Even Chucky is nothing like the original one, because this one bases it on technology gone wrong. And I think it's very relevant for today with the technology which we have today. And for me, it just made sense, that film. Very different. I'd put the two films in completely different categories because of that. Number 6 is Midsommar. Now, I really enjoyed Midsommar, but not as much as I thought I would. I thought Hereditary was a good movie, so I know it's by the same guy, but it didn't. I thought Hereditary was very hyped, and that's what kind of ruined it for me, whereas Midsummer, not as many people spoke about it. It's a great idea. The movie's got a great setting. The way it's shot is very atmospheric. Oh my god, you know what I'm trying to say. It's got a lot of atmosphere, so word is not working today. It's got a lot of atmosphere. The characters themselves that you're following, I didn't particularly like any of them, and that's maybe why I had a bit of an issue with the film. I think it's a type of movie that I probably will enjoy more on the second watch, because it is a very long film, which is part of why I didn't love it. But because I think in the second watch I'll like it a lot more. Number 5 is Dumbo. Now, my ultimate all-time favourite Disney movie is Dumbo. I have an extreme soft spot for him. I've got figures, I've got pyjamas, I've got things Dumbo. So I've got teddies of Dumbo, and I just love it. And when it was announced that Tim Burton was going to be making a live action version of Dumbo, I wanted to go in a corner and cry, because Tim Burton hasn't been at his best for a long time. I hated his remake of Alice in Wonderland, and that's another Disney movie that I really like, and I really like the book. So I didn't have high hopes for Dumbo at all. However, what I really liked about this is it showed a lot of the Tim Burton that I grew up liking: Beetlejuice, Edward Scissorhands, Tim Burton. It's very colourful, and it's got well, I like Colin Farrell. I nearly said Firth, that would have been wrong. Colin Farrell in this, he plays the perfect role. I liked Michael Keaton in this, he was a really good bad guy. And I really like Danny DeVito in this, because his character's got a bit more of an arc to him than you expect. I thought the reason why this Dumbo was so good is because the original one is a really short film, and if you were to adapt that story to screen, it just wouldn't have worked, and that's why I was worried about this. So if you were to adapt it to live action, but what Tim Burton did, and the writers, I'm sure he didn't write it all himself, is they made a new storyline for Dumbo. So there were a lot of similarities. Obviously he's born, he's got big ears, he's taken away from his mum, but they made this into its own story. It's called the same name, it's got the general basic idea, but it's not the same film, and that's what I really liked about it. I have seen Dumbo a couple of times, and I'll probably watch it a lot more. I just really liked it. It was a great film. Number 4 is Ready or Not. Ready or Not took me by surprise. I went into it actually thinking it was going to be very much like the film You're Next, but it was nothing like You're Next. It's about, I try to think, satanic ritual. I don't want to give too much away, but the reason why I really liked it is because it was very funny. A lot of the deaths that happen in this are accidental, which made me laugh so much. Claire didn't like it so much. I think it's a bit like Cabin in the Woods. Claire had an idea in her head of what it was going to be, and when it wasn't that, she couldn't enjoy it. However, on her second watch of Cabin in the Woods, she loved it. So I'm hoping that'll be the same with Ready or Not. Number 3 is Shazam. DC hasn't done very well when it comes to movies. I think Wonder Woman's good. I actually didn't mind Aquaman, but their Justice League, I know I forgot the name, hasn't been great. Their portrayal of Batman and Superman hasn't been great. So when Shazam came out, which is a relatively unknown character to me anyway, I didn't have high hopes for it. I thought it's not going to be great, but I was wrong. It's actually the best DC movie, in my opinion, that's come out. Very funny, very likeable characters, great storyline, and I can't wait to see part 2. I just hope they don't let us down. Number 2 is a movie called Booksmart. It's weird because a lot of people talk about it, but a lot of people don't. It's basically a story about 2 girls on the last day of school. They've basically lived their whole teenage life being good, studying really hard in order to get into their college or university of their dreams. They realise on the last day of school that all these kids that they wrote off as wasters and losers because they were always having fun and going to parties, they realise that actually they got into the same schools and the same universities, and it makes them go, you know what, we didn't have fun all this time because we were studying too much and we were too focused on being the good guys. So they decide to go out with a bang and go out for this night. Everything goes wrong for them, but it's what makes the film is it's the relationship between 2 of them and the way that they sort of bounce off each other. I just really, really enjoyed this film. I've watched it a couple of times now, and it's still as good as the first watch. And then number one is the Joker. Again, it's DC, but I didn't know what to think when they announced that they were doing this film, because the Joker has taken a bit of a journey. I thought that Jack Nicholson's Joker was really great in Tim Burton world. I thought that Heath Ledger was absolutely amazing. He took the character of the Joker and made it his own. So when they announced that Joaquin Phoenix was going to be doing it, now he is an amazing actor, but when they announced that Jared Leto was going to do it, Jared Leto to me is an amazing actor. If you've seen Requiem for a Dream, for example, he's fantastic in it. And he basically immerses himself in his character. So I had this idea that his Joker was going to be really good, but it became too cartoonish. So when they announced that Joaquin Phoenix was going to do it, who's another actor that immerses himself into roles, I was very skeptical. I was like, I don't know what's going to happen with this. But it was amazing. I've seen it twice at the cinema. I can't wait for it to come out to watch it a third time. I think what's so good about this movie is that they focus on so many different areas. This is a guy who's struggling in life. He's struggling within himself. He's struggling to find out who he is. He's extremely lonely. The only friend he has is his mum, who is amazingly cast in this film by Frances Conroy. I think she's a fantastic actress. And then he finds out, as his world starts to fall apart, society's falling apart along with him, that his mum, who he loves more than anything, hasn't been honest with him, or it's put across in the film she hasn't been honest with him. She obviously hasn't been honest with everything. So that his world starts to crumble because this person that he loves so much had lied to him. He then finds out that the guy who could be his dad doesn't want him. No one wants him. He's put down in the world. His job doesn't want him. Dad doesn't want him. His mum's lied to him. And you see this guy's life slowly crumbling. Again, I should have actually warned you that I was going to say so much about the Joker, sorry. But I can't help it. It's a great film. His world is crumbling apart. And it's very rare that you have a character who is actually the bad character, but you sympathise with him. And when it gets to him doing bad things, you're actually on his side. And that's what the Joker did. It made you understand, to an extent, why he does what he does. It's just an amazing film, and I really do hope he wins the Oscar for that performance. I know he won the Golden Globe, but I hope he wins the Oscar because it is well deserved. Okay, so some honourable mentions now. First honourable mention is a movie called Satanic Panic. It's released by Arrow Video. It's actually got quite a few similarities to Ready or Not, and the idea that it's about satanic people. Very funny again. I enjoyed the characters and the direction that it went. The ending for me let it down a little bit, but that's just me. It would be worth a watch. I took a chance on it, to be honest, but I really, really liked it, so I would recommend it if you haven't seen it already. Then it's Three from Hell, which is Rob Zombie's end to his trilogy of A House of Thousand Corpses and The Devil's Rejects. Now, for me, probably like a lot of horror fans out there, I had really high hopes for this movie. I thought The Devil's Rejects was an amazing film, and I kind of stupidly, or naively I should really say, thought that Three from Hell was going to be a continuation in the same style as Devil's Rejects. I don't know why I thought that, because The Devil's Rejects is completely different from A House of a Thousand Corpses. Other than the characters, you wouldn't know that was a sequel to that film. And it's kind of the same from Three from Hell. Other than the characters, it doesn't really follow the same format as The Devil's Rejects, but we should have sussed that out. I like the characters. I like that they were able to get Captain Spaulding in it, even if it wasn't for long. I mean, the late, great Sid Haig's obviously no longer with us, but I enjoyed seeing him in this movie again. I liked the direction of it. I liked the idea that they moved on from In Order to Live. I felt the movie lacked the heart that the Devil's... I know it sounds strange talking about killers in that way, but lacked the heart that the Devil's Rejects had, and that's where it fell down for me, because the middle film is far better than the other two. I hope that makes sense. But I still really enjoyed it. Then Captain Marvel. Marvel movies for me, There's so many of them. And if you look at the movies coming out this year, it's mainly made up of Marvel films. But for this one, I actually really enjoyed it because there was no love story in it. It was mainly about friendship, and she was quite a strong character. From beginning to end, really, before anything happened to her, she was a strong character, and for that, I just really liked it. It surprised me. I didn't expect to like it. And then the remake of Rabid. So, again, I love David Cronenberg's Rabid. I really didn't. When they announced they were going to be making a remake, I was like dead against it. But me being me, I wanted to watch it. Other than the title and the premise of it, so the idea of an infection, this movie has nothing in common with David Cronenberg's movie. So if you're going to watch it, take it as its own film, because it's nothing like that one really. And I really enjoyed the direction and the things that they did with it. So now for the dishonourable mentions. First up is probably a film you are going to be a bit surprised about because it's a massive blockbuster, and it's Avengers Endgame. I don't hate Avengers Endgame. The character Thor in it is amazing. He makes that movie. The battles in it, fantastic. There's 3 things that made me dislike this movie, and I'm just going to rant and say them. If you haven't seen the film, stop right now because I'm going to ruin the whole thing for you. Number 1. In this film, Tony Stark dies. So Iron Man dies. I asked you to pause if you haven't seen it. However, so does Black Widow. So why then at the end of this film does no one mention her? She gets like one sentence of poor Black Widow, but Iron Man gets this whole big 20-minute sequence of a funeral and everyone crying. Now, if it wasn't for the Black Widow sacrificing herself, there would be no movie. So that really bugged me. Also, the Vision. Now, I know he died in the previous movie, but the woman that loved him was still in this film, and I feel like he should have had some sort of remembrance for her sake. It would have been so much better had the funeral been for all 3, but there we go. My second fault with it was, in Guardians of the Galaxy, a woman touches one of those gemstones, or whatever you call them, the stones, and explodes. Now, all of those stones are in the gauntlet. Nowhere do they say that once it's in the gauntlet, they're safe. And in that movie, the gauntlet gets passed from pillar to post. All these people are touching it, but not once does anybody react to one of the stones. Now, maybe that's nitpicking, but it really annoyed me. And then the last thing is my biggest qualm with this movie. When they go to collect the stones during time travel, there's this big hoo-ha about we must take the stones back to the time they came out of. Fine. However, Thanos travels from the past to the future. He then has a big massive battle, which is fun to watch, and dies. Therefore, that past timeline would never have happened. So nothing after that timeline of Thanos dying would have ever happened. Therefore, the movie that we're watching would never have been. It annoyed me so much that they tried to explain it. Oh, there's different timelines, blah, 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 blah. Well, unfortunately, she travelled back in that timeline. Sorry, I'm going into such a rant. I'm messing up my words. What's that character called? Played by Karen Gillan. Completely forgot it. But Karen Gillan's character goes back in time to get that stone. Just the same as everybody else goes back in time to get their stones. They have to take their stones back not to mess up the timeline. So, therefore, it's a stupid idea that although she was back in that timeline and they travelled forward from that timeline, they technically messed up time. Now, I know time travels are tricky. Like, time travel movies are tricky. But that one just... none of it made sense to me. It should have totally wiped out time as it was and rewritten it for the future. It's a really bad excuse to say timelines are wibbly wobbly or whatever, because she would have had to have taken that stone back in that timeline to make sure that it didn't mess it up. But she couldn't, because they travelled from the timeline to the future and died. So don't ever try and explain that to me, because there's no way of actually doing it. It was a cop-out trying to explain it. But yeah, that's my rant over. And I've totally forgot my other dishonourable mentions. Next one is Star Wars. Massive big franchise. Love the original 3. The pre-sequels I do remember enjoying when they came out, but I was much younger. Couldn't rewatch them because they were that bad. I enjoy Rogue One, probably because they all die. I enjoy Solo because it's more of a kind of adventure film. It felt for me like, although it's in space, it was kind of like Indiana Jones feel. Although it didn't do well, I enjoyed it. I did enjoy the very first one, which I forgot the name of, in the trilogy. The second one missed a massive opportunity to me, which I thought they were going to rectify in this one, and they didn't. So to me, the opportunity that they missed is technically, for me, light should not exist without dark. If there's one without the other, they're going to lose balance. So when in the previous film, I really should remember these titles. I know this one's Rise of Skywalker, the one before. So no, this is the last Skywalker. You know which ones I'm talking about. So in the last one, when Ren and Rey fought each other, Kylo Ren and Rey, I thought they were going to realise that there's no light without dark, because they did this huge bit where they were connected and they were together. I actually thought there was a romance working there. Now, I know he killed, but people can come back from the dark. Anyway, I thought they were going to realise that, and then something was going to happen with regards to that in the next film, but they completely blindsided it and just ignored that. And then in this film, I thought the same thing was going to happen, and it kind of did, but it didn't, because the ending, to me, there's no light without dark. That's the easiest way to put it, and a lot of people were really, really disappointed in the end to that Star Wars and said it was crap. I was told that before I went to see the movie by multiple people. Don't do it. I didn't think it was rubbish. I thought there was a lot of good things in it, but it just missed the mark for me. And then the last one's probably a movie that people don't expect me to put on here, because I love the first three, and that's Toy Story 4. I do actually really like Toy Story 4. I own Toy Story 4, but I thought part 3 was the most fitting end to that storyline. I really didn't think they needed a part 4. I enjoy the characters, and that's why I own it, but the movie shouldn't have been made. They should have ended at part 3. If it's a standalone movie with different characters, it would have been far better. But it's kind of why it's on the dishonourable list. I enjoyed the film, so it's a bit weird that I own it and enjoy it, but I just don't think they needed a part 4. But anyway, that's my list. If there's any movies which I didn't put on there, it's probably because I haven't seen them. But if you recommend them, let me know. If there's any that you would have put higher or lower in the list, again, just let me know. And thank you for watching.